Hello! In this video, I show you how to back up Microsoft 365 data to Azure Blob Storage with NAKIVO Backup and Replication. To use Azure Blob Storage to store your backups, you need to integrate the Azure Blob Storage with NAKIVO Backup and Replication. First, log into your account on the Azure.com portal and select App Registrations. In case you don't have the App Registration service visible in the top menu, you can return to the home screen and type App Registrations in the search bar to find it. Then, click New Registration to start registering a new application. You get to the Register an Application page. Here, give your application a display name first. If necessary, you can change this name later. In supported account types, you need to specify who can use your new application. Define the access level as per your needs. In this example, I name my application NAKIVO Blob Storage Application and select a single tenant access. Once done, click Register. After that, if the process is successful, you can see the pop-up message about the created application in the top right corner. You can then return to the home screen and find your registered app in the resources list. Click the application if you want to check the information about it. Then, you need to create a new storage account. Click Storage Accounts in the Services dashboard, and then click Create in the top menu. The Create a Storage Account page opens. Select the appropriate subscription and resource group from the respective drop-down menus. You can also create a new resource group by clicking the Create New button under the Resource Group drop-down menu. Name your storage account and configure the region, performance, and redundancy settings as per your needs. When configuring performance, you can choose between standard and premium levels. Both options allow you to use block blob storage. However, if you select premium, you will be able to choose between 3 premium account types: block blobs, file shares, and page blobs. I leave the default region and the standard performance level. In case you need to enable immutability settings for backups in this storage, switch to the Data Protection tab. There, select 2 options: Enable versioning for blobs and Enable version-level immutability support. Immutability can protect Microsoft 365 backup data stored in your Azure storage from alteration or deletion. You can use immutable backups to restore data, for example, after a ransomware attack. Also, switch to Advanced and make sure that the Allow Enabling Anonymous Access on Individual Containers option is disabled. Once you complete the configuration, click the Review plus Create button. After you see the options review, click the Create button below. The storage account creation is in progress. After a storage container has been deployed, go to Access Control, IAM, and make sure that you have the correct privileges allocated to your app registration. Click View in the View Access to this resource section. Ensure that your app registration has the correct role, Storage Blob Data Owner. If there is no app registration with this role, you should be able to add this app registration with this current role. To do this, go back to the Access Control, IAM. If you logged in as an administrative user, click Add Role Assignment, and then add this specified role to your app registration. Now, let's go to Container Configuration. In the search bar on the left side, type Containers and select it. As you can see, I have already created a container for this demo. However, you can add a new one by clicking Add Container. Let's click the plus button. When creating a new container, give it a name, and in Advanced Options, ensure that the Enable Version-Level Immutability support is selected. Then, hit the Create button.
Now, let's integrate NAKIVO Backup and Replication with the previously configured storage container. Let's go back to App Registration. Hit the Home button. Go to App Registrations and click All Applications. Type the name of your app registration that you created and select it. For me, it's the NAKIVO Blob Storage Application. Now, I'll prepare the client ID and tenant ID necessary to integrate the NAKIVO solution with my Azure account. I'll also need to get a secret ID or a client secret. To do this, click Certificates and Secrets. You can either use the existing certificate secret if you copied it when creating the app registration, or you can delete it and generate a new secret. Select the secret validity, the expiration period, enter a name/description, and click Add. Then, copy this value. Now, let's add blob storage to the NAKIVO Backup and Replication inventory. Open the web interface of the NAKIVO director. Go to Settings, then switch to Inventory. There, click the plus button. The Add Inventory Item wizard opens. At the Platform step, select Cloud Storage. Click Next.
At the Type step, select Microsoft Azure. Besides Azure Blob Storage, NAKIVO Backup and Replication also supports Amazon S3, Wasabi, Backblaze B2, and other S3-compatible storage as cloud backup destinations. Click Next again. At the Options step, give a display name to your Azure storage and copy the required credentials from the previously opened Azure App Registration Overview tab in the Azure Active Directory portal. These include the directory tenant ID, application client ID, and Azure Client Secret. After you have added all the values, click Finish. Wait for a few moments. As you can see, Azure Blob Storage has been added to the NAKIVO inventory. Now, you can create a backup repository in Azure Blob Storage. Go to Repositories, click the plus button, and select Create New Backup Repository from the pop-up menu. The Create Backup Repository wizard opens. At the Type step, select Cloud and S3-compatible storage. Click Next. At the Vendor step, select Microsoft Azure. Click Next to proceed. At the Name and Location step, specify a name for a new repository, assign a transporter, Azure account, and storage container. In case you have multiple containers, you can set a preferred one. In this example, I assign the onboard transporter and choose my only container added to the inventory. Once done, click Next. You can leave the default settings at the Options step. Make sure that the settings allow immutability and compression. Click Finish. Wait for a few seconds until a repository in Azure Blob Storage is added. Now, let's see how to back up your Microsoft 365 data to the newly created and added Azure Blob Storage using immutability and encryption. For starters, make sure that your Microsoft 365 tenant is integrated with NAKIVO Backup and Replication. To do that, go to Settings, then click Inventory, and find the Microsoft 365 tenant there. You can check the video linked in the right corner for more information on how to add your Microsoft 365 account to the NAKIVO solution. Now, go to Data Protection. Click the plus button and select Backup for Microsoft 365 from the menu. The new Backup Job wizard for Microsoft 365 opens. At the Sources step, select Microsoft 365 data you want to back up. NAKIVO Backup and Replication can back up data in Exchange Online, Microsoft Teams, OneDrive for Business, and SharePoint Online. In this example, I select some mailboxes. After you select the data to back up, click Next to proceed. At the Destination step, choose Azure Blob Storage as a target repository to store backup data. Then, click Next. At the Schedule step, you can configure a schedule and retention options for the new backup job. Alternatively, you can set the backup job to run on demand without a schedule. In this example, I set the backup job to run Monday to Friday at 8 a.m. and to retain backups for 1 week. You can make Microsoft 365 backups in Azure immutable if you've enabled versioning and immutability support for the blob storage in Azure. I have enabled these options earlier in this video, so now I can make backups immutable for enhanced protection against ransomware. In my case, I set the backups to remain immutable for 7 days. Once you complete the schedule setup, click Next. At the Options step, you can configure job options, mailbox processing, full backup settings, pre- and post-job actions, and data transfer settings. Here, pay attention to the backup encryption option to encrypt Microsoft 365 backup data at the source for additional security against breaches.
Open the Backup Encryption drop-down list and select Enabled. Click Settings and create a new password for encryption. Fill in the form with the password and repeat the password. Enter a description if needed. Remember that it is impossible to recover a password from the NAKIVO support agent. Make sure you store the password in a safe place. Otherwise, you will be unable to recover data from your backup. As you can see, the NAKIVO solution allows you to use the AWS KMS service for encryption key management. Click the Encryption tab if you want, and you can configure the solution to use the KMS service. When you have created a password, click Proceed. In the Mailbox Processing section, you can select the Microsoft Exchange Online services that you need to back up. In this example, I select to back up all available services, namely email messages, calendar events, contacts, public folders, in-place archive, in-place hold items, and litigation hold items. In full backup settings, define how often you need to create the full backup and select the preferred full backup mode.
For better performance, the active full mode is recommended when you use an object-level cloud storage as a backup repository. When you finish configuring options, click Finish to create and add the new job to the job list. Alternatively, you can click Finish and Run to run the job right upon creation. The warning message notifies you that you should save your encryption password somewhere before making an encrypted backup. Let's click Proceed. I will run the job according to the schedule I planned. As you can see, the job is running. The data transferring phase is starting. Wait until a data transferring phase is complete and a backup job is finished. You can view detailed information by selecting the job status. The Details panel displays each phase of the process. As shown in the graph below, the job is now in progress. And this concludes our video. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, click the like button and subscribe to our channel to catch new uploads. You can also download a free trial version of NAKIVO Backup and Replication using the link in the description and try NAKIVO Backup and Replication in your own environment for 15 days.